Either this is the most creative genius I've been in the past 7 years, or I'm having a manic episode. It's definitely one or the other. I suppose I have to pick up where I left off, which was I got a full time job. And I went from freelancing for like the past 6, 7 years to getting a full time job. And it's definitely been a learning curve. There's a lot of little things that I totally forgot about, like lunch, commutes, um, and probably most importantly, underestimating how goddamn tired I am at the end of the day. So, because of this, I've had to implement new things in my routine, such as Julia Cameron's Artist Way morning pages. I tried to write between 3 pages up to 1,000 words every morning just to get that creativity flow. And I have found that it's been very productive. It makes me feel like I'm contributing, doing something outside of just working the 9 to 5. Now, my 9 to 5 job has actually been pretty fulfilling, although I'm not putting my emotional eggs in that basket. I'm actually making a conscious effort to not put my emotional eggs in that basket. I don't want to put my self worth, I don't want to put my fulfillment, I don't want to put any emotions, any self esteem, anything into my job. It's just a 9 to 5. I clock in, I clock out. But I'm essentially a UGC creator and I make YouTube videos, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter content for a living. And that's pretty neat because that's been my world and my niche for the past 7 years full time, anyways, since 2017, whatever that math is. And it's cool because I'm staying sharp, no pun intended, with my name. I don't want to hear any knives puns. Can I just go one bloody day without a knives pun? But it's keeping me sharp. And I really like that because I'm staying in the game. But when I come home, the last thing I want to do is make a YouTube video. So right now it's 5:45 in the morning. I just shot some B-roll for my job because it requires nighttime exteriors. I'll explain later in some other video. And here I am, and I'm making a video. It's the first video I've made in 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. And, I could be the most inspired I've ever been, or I could be having a manic episode. Because if that's not enough, I got re inspired to write 2 books at the same time. One is an autobiography memoir, which I cannot wait to make into an audio experience, to make into an audio book. And I think that's going to be the way people are going to consume that. And the other is a fiction suburban fantasy series that I've been writing for 20 years. But now I'm turning it into a book. It's been films, it's been TV, it's been plays, it's been short films. I mean, it's gone through so many different iterations of different stuff. Now I'm turning it into an anthology series, and I'm going to release it one chapter at a time, Berserk style. So it's like, am I going through a manic episode, or am I just inspired and feeling myself and like just going through some flow? Because here's what my days finna look like. Wake up at 4:40 in the morning, ingest some caffeine, and start making some YouTube videos. Get that nice and ready for you guys in the morning, same day. Work 9 to 5. Come home, exercise, which usually means a 2-hour walk for me, and call that a day. Can I squeeze all my shit in a day? I have the same amount of hours that Beyonce does. Can I squeeze in all my shit in a day? I mean, I don't want to ingest too much caffeine to do that and start having panic attacks. I mean, that's just not healthy. I got to stay hydrated and I got to eat well. So there's this big balancing act. And, the only way to manage is to have healthy routines here and there, to have and build healthy habits here and there. Waking up early, going to sleep early, exercising, and being creative is like food and drink for me. And finding time to write is food and drink for me. If I can do that, I can do everything. I can do anything. And that's the idea. On my first week of work, I wrote a short film entitled Knives Monroe's Persona, which my friend and fellow Indie Darlings podcast alumni Christine Chen was/is set to direct. Now, we wanted to aim for an April filming weekend, but that does not seem likely. And I hate that I'm saying that for the first time publicly, but that's the way I hold myself accountable. I don't think that we're going to make that deadline. That doesn't mean that this film will not be made this year. That doesn't mean that Christine won't direct it. It just means April does not seem feasible, and it's hard to find a location for that. So it's weird. Like, I became busier as soon as I got a full-time job, but I became more structured. Like Tetris, things started falling into place. You know, WrestleMania season's 2 weeks from now. All hell is breaking loose. I don't even know what's going on anymore. But I have not made a video in 5 weeks, and so I wanted to update you guys. I'm clearly a psychopath. A part of me wants to create a daily, somewhat weekly cadence of just talking to you guys and expressing myself. But that seems like embarrassing sometimes. Like, what I have to say is so important. But here's what I'll say right now. I've updated my algorithm, and on this particular YouTube channel that you're watching this on, this is sort of a newer channel, and I've been very particular about who I've subscribed to, and it's mostly been newer creators that have less than 1,000 subscribers, and then they blow up. It's really weird. I mean, if I can find them, anybody can find them, I guess, but the whole point of this is this new perspective, this finding people that aren't co-opted by YouTube yet, that aren't playing the numbers and algorithm game yet, and they're just being true and honest. And it's somewhat embarrassing to be true and honest and vulnerable, even though that's what I like to be. That's where I like to rest. That's my cruising altitude, is just true, honest, and vulnerable. I don't know what it amounts to. I don't know if you can make money off of that. I don't know if that turns into a career. I don't even know if I should be thinking about that. I mean, I should be, right? Like, I should be, everything should be about making money, right? Like, that's the pressure. That's the pressure cooker of this country. Like, it should, how do I turn this into making $1? That's the whole idea, right? What is all this for? Just for funsies? Well, yeah. It's just for funsies, man, this is why I'm telling you. I could be having an episode, but I wouldn't know if I am. I've been taking my medicine. I could be a little more hydrated, but I'm picking up where I left off in 2017. And if you've been following my journey, that was like around the Vlogville era on my old Knives Monroe channel, where I was daily vlogging and I was working at this company that no longer exists, doing sales, taking the bus. My God, what a commute that was. But I was making content every day, and I was vlogging every day, and I was contributing something, building a community one person at a time. Shout out to Kendall York. Shout out to Cody King, Dave Knopp, Rebecca. If you guys are watching right now, let me know in the comments below, because holy shit, I just can't believe it. Cody just had a baby recently too, and it's like life just goes on, man. But I'm picking up right where I left off. I'm writing Rebel from the waist down again. Who would message me right now? Emails. Jesus. I'm writing again, picking up right where I left off. Right when Trump got elected, I started writing the whole blueprint. And so I already have an outline for my book. I have 10 volumes outlined. All I got to do is just write the chapters, which is the hard part, don't get me wrong, but the outline is usually the harder part. And it's notoriously been that way for me anyways. But I'm writing, doing some short films here and there, staying inspired, working 9 to 5, putting in my 40 hours, and still somehow managing to be creative at the same time. scratching that itch. It's wild. I almost needed 4 or 5 weeks to be off YouTube to kind of do that. And there is that FOMO factor when you're off YouTube long enough where you're like, you start getting itchy. You're like, I need to make something. They're going to forget about me. There is no they. And, I was in this self-imposed monk mode for a while there anyways. I stopped doing my podcast, and that's what people started recognizing me for, which was doing the podcast. And maybe that's what this is. I don't know, man. I created this thing called the content effort scale, much to my chagrin. And the whole concept of it is every piece of content that you make has an effort scale from 0 to 10 or -10 to 10. And, it needs a thumbnail optimized. It needs to be turned into an MP3 or a wave to go on your RSS feed. And it needs to have a short, and it needs to be transcribed. And you have a blog that's made out of it. And it needs to turn into a podcast. And it needs to turn into an image. It needs to turn into a carousel. And it's just taking this one piece of content and turning it into 20 plus things. And I call that the content effort scale. And, sometimes you get a 10 out of 10, and sometimes you get a -10 out of 10 where you put no effort into it. And it's like, if you make something, you might as well put the effort into it. But when you're creating that cadence of daily, you sacrifice quality for quantity. But Josh Terry taught me that quantity enables quality. So you have to keep making stuff so shit can get better. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is just make stuff so it can get better. Make stuff so I can show up consistently and scratch that itch. I can't commit to streaks, even though my bipolar ass wants to commit to streaks and be like, blah, I'm here every day. But I don't know if I can commit to that. I don't know. I'd love to make that promise, but I'm going to miss days. There's going to be travel days. Next month, I'm going to Miami for a weekend. I'm not going to be able to film anything for myself during that time. I probably won't be able to even write my morning pages, unless I wake up early, which I always do, and write them in the hotel, which I always do. I actually get more writing done when I travel. And that's one thing I love about writing. Is he going through a manic episode? That's one thing I love about writing is you can do it on your own anywhere, in an airplane, in a hot tub, alone in your room, in a hotel room, on a bus, anywhere. While you're walking, you can write anywhere. Walking 2 hours a day minimum has become this non-negotiable for me. And writing 3 pages up to 1,000 words every single day, just journaling, writing for the garbage can, has become this non-negotiable for me. I suppose I need to elevate my videos to that as well, and my podcast. I have to admit, I need some sort of feedback. I don't want to just be speaking into a void. Like, is this worth the time to make? I mean, I'm producing this at a pretty high quality. I mean, this is 4K, dual camera, beautiful microphone, lights. Like, you want this to be sustainable, but you also want people to enjoy this. And it takes time to put it all together. It takes time to take the footage off the SD card and drop it into a hard drive, and then produce proxies, and then edit it, and then render it. And I render in ProRes, and then you have to have good internet to upload a 20 gigabyte file to the internet, and then you got to write copy, and then the content effort scale. It's a whole ass thing. But then I think, what else would I do with myself? I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to scratch all these itches. I'm trying to stay creative and stay productive. And I'm trying to write 2 books on top of that. I'm giving myself 6 months to finish volume 1 of Rebel from the Waist Down, 5 chapters. If I can do that, and I can make 1 volume a year, I guess that's good. 5 chapters a year, that's pretty good. How many people can do that? And eventually you'll get, and the thing about this story is that it has an ending. It's going to end. It's not going to be like Berserk where it goes on indefinitely, or One Piece or what have you. It will end. Everything ends. Every story needs an ending. Maybe this podcast doesn't need to end. Maybe these videos don't need to end. Maybe my creative flow doesn't need to end. And who knows where this goes? Maybe this sells books one day. I don't know, man. I thought, I could live that Dan Co life and work 4 hours a day and write and like get out of the simulation, but I think that's just some shit that like a hippie is selling me, A hippie is selling you that shit. I don't know how crystallized and self actualized that actually is. Am I even making sense at this point? I should be wrapping up. Hey, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's good to be back. It's good to make something. I was up early. I didn't have time to walk, and I figured I already have this set up ready. So let's make something. And I just started recording and started going. I didn't have a plan. I could be creatively inspired or I could be having a manic episode. Time's going to tell on this one. Time's going to tell. I love you guys so much. I show up for you. Keep a force field around your heart. And hopefully I see you guys very soon. Like tomorrow very soon. Ciao.